So when is the last time that you felt you had to handle too many things? Or when is the last time that you felt that even though you're willing to face something, you really don't know how to handle it, how to approach it, how to resolve a situation or a problem? So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to stop struggling so that instead of struggling, you can gain clarity. You can really feel calmer about whatever it is that you're facing, and you can be more successful at resolving the issue or at moving on. My name is Olivia Pinto. I help freedom seekers create abundance and harmony while living the life you truly desire. So if you are a freedom seeker and you would like to have access to valuable information, tips, and tools to create abundance and harmony in your life, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it so you'll get notified every time I post a new video for you. So let's look at struggle. When we look at struggle, just the word struggle, we can feel the energy or the essence of a battle, of a conflict, of hard work, of something difficult to overcome, of a huge effort that needs to be put out there. So, in other words, when we struggle, we actually embrace the energy of a war. We are going through an internal war, maybe also an external one in our life, but definitely an internal war. This is really a state of fighting. And the tendency when we struggle is to become very armored, very protective, very stubborn, very unflexible, because we start narrowing our vision to look at our situation, and everything is actually happening around our situation or the issue that we're facing, and we kind of like forget a little bit the larger picture, new possibilities, external factors, and all that, and we become very, very, very protective of the issue that we're facing. So let's look at a few facts related to struggle and related to the behavior and mentality that we develop when we struggle, and then we'll see how can we use it in order to stop struggling. So, fact number one is that a lot of people complain about a certain situation that they're facing, but when they're asked, what is it that you want instead, they don't always have the answer. You see, a lot of people are clear on what they don't want. They know exactly, I don't want to have pain. I remember in the days when I was practicing healthcare, people would come to me and I would ask them, what is your biggest goal? And they would tell me, I don't want to feel pain, right? They know that they don't want pain. But okay, assuming you won't have pain, what will change in your life? What actions and activities will you do? What does the pain today stop you from doing that, and people would have to actually think about it, because they didn't go past their pain to think about how would life be without pain. And that's really the nature of struggle. We become very, very focused on the pain and the things we don't want. And that goes hand in hand together with the fact that many people feel very dissatisfied because of what they don't have. And they focus on what they don't have. They focus on what is missing. They focus on what is lacking. They focus on what is wrong. Okay, so they don't know exactly with full clarity what they want, and they also focus on what is bad, what is missing, what is wrong, what is lacking, instead of focusing on what is good and what is we have plenty of, and so on. So the focus becomes very, very, very negative. Okay, that is fact number one. Fact number two is that many people tell you that they're willing to do whatever it takes to change a situation, whatever it takes. But when it comes to being specific in making a particular action or making a change or doing something differently in order to change the situation, that's where it stops. It's as if they tell you, I'm willing to do whatever it takes with no conditions, unconditionally. Under one condition, that I'm not changing anything, or that I change a little bit within my comfort zone, but I definitely don't step out of my comfort zone. So, this unconditional condition is really making people convince themselves that they really are willing to do anything, but they're not willing to do anything. You know, it's like, can you do me a favor? Yeah, of course, anything, just let me know. And then when they tell you what the favor is, you say, oh, well, actually, it's not always congruent between our words and our intentions and our actions. And fact number 3 is that a lot of people are very, very afraid, very scared of changing, very scared of falling into a situation of the unknown. And I'm going to take it to one extreme. We can learn a lot from this extreme example. And this example is a true story of a bank robbery that happened in 1973 in the capital of Sweden, Stockholm. And there was this bank robbery. The robbers took 4 hostages in that bank that were actually released, and everything ended up being okay. But then when the time came to go to trial, they were asked to actually testify against the captures. And they refused to. And they were actually protecting and justifying the people who took them hostages. And we see that as well with people who are kidnapped. So this whole thing, this whole story that happened in 1973 created or gave birth to the term the Stockholm Syndrome, which refers to people who are hostages and they start developing some emotions towards the people who are capturing them, developing empathy and compassion towards them, and at the same time, fear of survival and all that comes with being a hostage or being kidnapped and all that. So the Stockholm Syndrome is very, very, very much of an extreme example, but I invite you to look at your life and to see how much we tend to do the same energy, the same approach as the Stockholm Syndrome. I'll give you a few examples. So recently, I'm talking about a real case recently that happened with a woman that was bitten by her husband and her face was completely almost unrecognizable. And she was really in a bad situation and she kind of managed to escape from her house and she ended up hiding at a friend's place quite far from where she lives. And slowly she was taken care of and she recovered from the injuries and all that. And she started facing the situation. At the beginning, she felt very humiliated and very shocked and painful. And then she got a bit scared that she escaped from the house because, you know, what happens if he finds me, and so on and so on and so on. But as time went by, she felt stronger and stronger and stronger. And then one day she has decided to actually go back to him. She even told her friend why she understands why the husband beat her. And she started taking responsibility for some things that she could have said and didn't say, or some things that she did that she shouldn't have done, or some things that she didn't do that she could have. She kind of like pictured herself a whole reasoning behind justifying why she should go back to her husband. And her friend told her, hey, you're going to be bitten again. It's not a one-time thing. And you know that. Why do you want to go back to that situation? And so this is another extreme example. But hey, it happens a lot. It happens a lot that people stay in a relationship even though they're miserable in that relationship. It doesn't need to be a physical hostage, but you're an emotional hostage of a marriage, for example, or a long-term relationship or a work relationship where your boss abuses everyone or doesn't reward you properly or doesn't edify you enough or doesn't recognize your efforts and all that, and you keep staying and staying and staying and surviving and surviving and surviving, even though you know it's abusive, and you still stay in the situation. You may even justify or explain why the boss or the partner or the person that is actually doing that has his or her reasons. So that's another mild version of the Stockholm syndrome. And I'll give you another example. Recently, we had the elections here, and the majority of the population is very, very dissatisfied with the situation, whether it's the socio-economical situation, whether it's the political, whether it's the, the list never ends. People are unhappy with the situation that is going on right now. So we had the elections and we had the chance to go and vote and change the government. But guess what? Even though most people complain, most people are unhappy, they ended up voting and electing the very same party, the very same government, the very same prime minister. So, on one hand, you complain that the situation is not good. On the other hand, you are given the chance to change it, and you elect the very same situation and the very same people that are causing the situation that you are suffering from. Do you see how awkward that is? And again, that's a very mild example of the Stockholm syndrome, that I'd rather go with the horrible familiar than changing to something unknown. Okay, so we see it in so many examples of day-to-day life. So we're unhappy with the situation, we can change it, and we don't. And we become hostages of the situation, our own hostages. And then we develop sympathy for our choices and our reasoning and our performance and our activities and how we feel. And we justify it and we build stories around it just to make sure that we stay in the situation rather than taking the risk of improving our situation. And why is this so relevant and why is this so important? If we focus on what we don't want and we focus on what is missing, on what is lacking, we will keep struggling. If we are unwilling to change things, we will keep struggling. It's obvious then that if we want to stop struggling, we need to embrace two things. We need to develop clarity, focusing on what we want and not on what we don't have and what is not there and what is missing. What is it that we want? We need to be very clear. And at the same time, we need to be willing and open enough to accept change, not only to accept as if change knocks on your door, but also to embrace change as in actively taking action towards creating changes. So how do we do that? How do we stop struggling? How do we become clearer on what is it that we really, really want? And how do we become more open to embrace and accept changes? Well, here are 5 tips for you that will help you do that. And tip number 1 is that you need to come from a rested place in order to stop struggling. When you are exhausted, it's very hard to be clear. Think of traveling for a long time, long distance, a few flights and a few delays. And by the time you reach your destination, you're exhausted from the traveling, you're exhausted from the trip, excited for what is about to come, but still exhausted physically. You even start getting a bit of a headache. You are dehydrated. You didn't eat properly. It's the middle of the night for you, even though it's the morning there. You're jet lagged. And all you want is to take a shower and fall asleep for a while. And only then you'll be able to function well again. Well, imagine at that time you have to make a major decision about your life. It's going to be quite challenging, right? So being rested is a foundation. And I know that some people think that it's when you're stressed out and you're completely exhausted and you are physically beyond a certain point, then the mind cannot handle anymore. So you can make better decisions. I tend to, my experience at least, it's not so much a matter of agreeing or disagreeing intellectually. My experience, and I can only share with you my own experience, is that when someone is rested, it's easier to look at the larger picture. It's easier to make decisions. It's healthier to make decisions when the body mind is not under overstress. If you understand that being rested is important, how you rest is not so important. You see, for someone, being rested means that they observe their breathing for 5 minutes. For someone else, it could be that they meditated for 20 minutes. Another person may say, well, when I try to meditate, I get even more upset and more nervous. It doesn't work for me. For me, it's actually going for a long run or sports or something, and the rest and the pleasure that the body feels after extreme sports, that's when I feel rested. So it's very, very individual. You do whatever feels right for you. You see, you may want to listen to music that feels good for you. You may want to be in nature. Just sit in nature or have a picnic or take a walk in nature or just go to bed and fall asleep. Take a shower. Sometimes a shower makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm a new person, you know. Tip number 2 is to be grateful for what you do have. If you say, well, I'm grateful for A, B, C, and D, you start focusing on what you have rather than what is lacking and what is missing, because we said that this actually brings more struggle. And by doing that, it puts the mind into an abundance mindset. So then it's easier to get clearer and it's easier to look for opportunities to change. The third tip is to remind yourself that there is a larger or bigger picture. Often when we are struggling with something, we're looking at our situation and our vision is getting narrow-minded. When we look back and we say, oh my God, when I was struggling there and then, it felt like I came to a dead end. It felt like I didn't have a clue how to get out of the situation or what to do about it. And it even started bringing the victim mentality thinking of like, why does it happen to me? And things like that. But looking back and knowing what unfolded as a result of that particular struggle, it was the best thing that happened to me. So maybe in the moment we don't understand why the struggle is a blessing, but let's keep in mind the perspective that there is a larger picture here at play, that there are a lot of things way beyond who we are that are part of the happening, and trust life a little bit more, trust ourselves a little bit more, and just keep in mind that there is a larger picture. Step number 4 is to gain clarity. What is it that you really want? You look at your struggle, you look at the circumstances you're facing, you look at the issue, you look at the dynamics, you look at the people involved in it, and you say, okay, what is it that I really want? If I had no limitations of time, money, circumstances, nothing, what is it that I really want? And then document it. You can either write it down on a piece of paper or on a computer if you're more electronic. You can use your phone. You can use your phone and record yourself. I often do it. I record myself either in the recording app that comes with a phone, or I send myself a WhatsApp with a voice recording in which I express what is it that I want. And when I listen to it, I say, oh my God, I'm not speaking clearly. I'm all over the place and I don't know how to verbalize what I want. And that is a reflection that I'm not clear inside on the things that I want. So it doesn't matter how you document it, but when you document it, when you have to actually put words, and then you can use your senses, like your eyesight by reading what you wrote, or your hearing by hearing your recording, and getting the clarity is the foundation of stopping the struggle. Tip number 5 is all about willing to change and being open enough to step out of our comfort zone and understand that if we focus on gratitude, on abundance, being rested, and we're very clear on what we want, it's going to be much easier to take the right action. As a matter of fact, the fear of change oftentimes comes out of confusion and not being very clear. So once we're very clear on what we want, then taking the steps in order to get there, making changes becomes less threatening. And we may want to change something huge that is out there, but we need to focus on right here. And that means let us ask ourselves, what is the very, very next step that I need to take? And once we take it, okay, what is the very next step? You see, it's like baby steps, one step and another step and another step and another step and another step. So it's all about taking the next step. If we look too far, it may be too threatening. So let's focus on the very next step. And by doing that, it will make us feel way more capable, way more confident, way more realistic, and we will be able to feel very fulfilled because it's much easier to perform a small step than climbing the whole mountain. Now, since we're talking today about struggling, I created for you a free downloadable PDF, a guide, in which I include 10 tips to making changes. And that will help you being able to actually make changes more easily in your life. Because by now, hopefully you understood that unless you're willing and open enough to make changes, is no different than the elections where you complain about the situation, but then when time comes and you have the chance to change it, you elect exactly the same situation. You elect the same circumstances. You elect the same people around you. You elect the same issues, the same belief system, the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same habits. So if you want to elect something new, you need to elect something different. And different means making changes. So because making changes is such a challenging thing, you have the guide that gives you 10 ways, 10 tips of how to make changes in a very, very easy way so that you'll be able to really enjoy making the changes and enjoy life more easily. You can pick up this guide for free over on my blog at oliviapinto.com/17. I will leave a link for you above or below this video. And when you click on the link, it will take you to my blog, or if you're already on my blog, you'll see below the video a big green button. And when you click on it, it will give you access to my 10 tips to making changes. If you like this video and you feel it added some value to you, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends wherever they are in the world, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao.